Well, hey, this is Francisca, and this is my Midlife Crisis Life. So, I'm currently filming in a bathroom in Turkey because my son is sleeping and they're always partying downstairs. Um, this is pretty much the only place that I have that's free and that's private. And man, I hope that I can be heard over the fucking sound of this light. I don't know why it needs to do what it's doing, but it is. Anyway, so I'm in Turkey at the moment because my really beautiful, amazing son bought us a holiday to Turkey. He made a decision that he wanted to go on holiday with me and saved up the money and bought the tickets. And it's really beautiful because my son has some really severe disabilities, some really severe developmental neurological disabilities, and I've spoken about it in another video, and I'll try and find it and I'll put it up here. But basically, he has holes in his brain, and the holes in his brain are in his prefrontal and his temporal lobe, and what they do is they impact him and his brain and the way that it works. So he has a lot of very autistic traits. And the older that he's got, the more autistic that he's become, I swear to God. Like, and I don't mean more autistic, I mean like he's more rigid than he ever was as a child. He was able to be more flexible as a kid, and you could kind of get him to do things or get him to try things. Now he is very set in his lane. This is what he wants, this is what he likes, this is who he is, and he is not budging. And the reason why the whole holiday is beautiful is because, you know, my son is nearly 21. And actually, nearly 21 means that he has nearly completed 21 years of his life here on Earth. And I think that there have been two, possibly three occasions where my son has told me that he loves me. He doesn't say it. He doesn't like to be touched. I can't really hug him. There's no there's no way to connect with him like that in terms of like what we would consider to be love. But then, you know, everybody has their own love language, right? And me, I need a lot of words of affirmation. So I like to be told that I'm loved. I like to tell people that I love them. This is how I give love. And there's various other ways that I do it, but that's a really big one for me. For my son, no, he doesn't like it. You cannot give him praise. You cannot tell him that you love him. Like, he will freak the fuck out. But even though my son has only told me that he loves me less than a handful of times in my entire parenting life, what he has done is he's brought me a holiday to Turkey. And if that's not demonstrative of somebody's love, then I don't know what it is. And it makes me think about that whole idea of like love languages and how we as human beings very much expect for somebody to express their love in the same way that we express our love. And when they don't, we often feel disappointed and we feel upset and we feel detached from that person because they're like, they don't love us. They don't love us because they're not loving us in the way that we love other people. So therefore, it doesn't count. So I think there's something about like accepting what he has to offer in the way that he has to offer it. And obviously the way that he can show me that he loves me is through giving stuff to me, through gifts. And it's true because he does the same thing for his younger brother, who he will never, ever say that he loves, ever, but decided to buy him a PlayStation 5. He was just like, I'm going to buy him a PlayStation 5. That's what I want to do. Okay, babe. Or we'll like offer him a Magnum or something like that. That's like a really big thing to Josh, to take the things that he has, because he has more of a relationship with inanimate objects. Like his phone is very precious to him, his things are very precious to him. So for him to take that and give that to you, that is a declaration of love. on his part. And some people might look at it and say, it's a fucking Magnum, bro. Like, go and buy one from the shop. They're like £1.50. Go and get your own. Doesn't fucking matter. But actually, it really does. And I think it's important to always try and remember to try and see how somebody is trying to show you, trying to demonstrate their love to you, and to have reverence for that, to have respect for that, and to hold that in the esteem that they hold it in when they're giving that to you. So I think that's the first thing. So I think it's a really beautiful thing that my son bought as a holiday to Turkey. That being said, I'm here with him alone, right? And being the person that he is, the way that he likes to connect, it's been really difficult, in all honesty. He doesn't need human interaction. He doesn't need to be around people, to talk to people, to reconnect with people, or to connect with people in the same way that the majority of the population do. So because of that, he's very happy to just spend time by himself. He brought his PlayStation. And maybe that was an error on my part to be like, yeah, sure, you can bring it. But at the same time, I knew that he would struggle without it. Right? So he brought his PlayStation, and he's basically spent the majority of this holiday in the room playing PlayStation, being by himself. And even when we do spend time together, he doesn't really have that urge to make conversation. He doesn't really have that urge to be connected in that same way. So even when we spend time together, the conversation revolves around something very specific and nuanced that he wants to talk to me about, that he wants to tell me about, or questions that he wants to ask me about very specific and nuanced things. So the whole time that we spend together is very much geared to his perspective, to his needs, to how he wants to interact. He has no real consideration for what my needs might be, that I might need to talk about things, that I might need to have some conversation, that I might need to have some company, or whatever it might be. These are not really things that he considers because, he doesn't really have theory of mind, so he can't really place himself in somebody else's shoes. And that's just not how his brain works, right? And that's fine. I don't blame him for that. But I have found myself becoming a little bit resentful the longer and longer that I've been here, and the longer and longer that I've just sat all alone by myself. And I do feel very lonely at the moment. And it's really interesting to watch my inner monologue. So what I've found over these last few days is that when I don't have any other input from anyone else, when there's not any interplay between me and other people, my energy is really low. It doesn't take long for my energy to just be sucked out of me. And I've felt this way many times before, like this kind of feeling of depression, this feeling of heaviness. And I'm realizing that actually it may not be that this feeling is related to things that are going on around me, to difficulties or challenges that I'm feeling, or periods of like deep emotional crisis. That actually the emotional crisis comes from feeling disconnected and feeling like I have absolutely no purpose. So doing nothing and being around no one and basically being irrelevant, like just floating around as this completely irrelevant invisible, non-existent entity causes serious, serious, serious depression for me. And I would hazard a guess that it's probably the same for a lot of people, but that we don't necessarily get the opportunity to experience it because we're constantly choosing to consume stuff. So we're constantly choosing to be around people or to feed that part of us that keeps us connected to something in some way, even if it's like we watch the news every single day because we need to feel connected to what's going on in the world because we don't ever see anybody, right? And I always think about, like, what is the purpose of life? I always say that I feel like the purpose of life is remembrance. Because if nobody remembers you, then you didn't really exist. And give it a couple of generations, unless you've done something that is, long lasting and worldwide, you will never be remembered. Your life literally have been forgotten. And how can you exist if you don't exist in relation to something else, right? It's that whole thing of like the tree falls in the woods and nobody's there. Did it really fall? Right? Well, technically, yeah, but does anybody know? No, so it didn't really, right? And I think about like how my desperation to want to do something big and want to be seen and want to make this big impact, but not make it quietly by myself over here. I just know that I did it and feel satisfied with that, but like wanting everybody to see, like, oh, that girl made a massive impact. Yeah, oh yeah, we know her, we remember her. I think it's something to do with my mortality, and I think it's something to do with this need to be remembered, this need to exist, and to not just exist in a very small way, and to not just be happy that I exist for existence sake, but to exist in relation to something else. So there's that. But then also, the other thing that I've noticed is that the more and more that I listen to my internal rhetoric, the more and more that I listen to my own narrative, when there's nothing and nobody to interrupt it, I realise how fucked up it is. Like, it's really fucked up. Like, all I do is talk really negatively about myself. Like, oh, Fran, like, do you look good? Do you not look good? You look fat. What's going on with your legs? Why is your hair like that? Like just constant negative speech towards myself. And then, because I'm feeling really negative about myself, because there's nothing and no one to fucking interrupt this constant stream of negativity that's going on in my head, I then start being really horrible about other people in my head because I want to make myself feel better. Oh, she's really fucking fat anyway. Look how many fucking wrongs she's got. Like, literally, this is all that's been going on in my head for the past like few days. And like, I'm getting to a point where I'm just like, shut the fuck up, Fran. Like, shut up. Like, shut up. I can't fucking deal with it anymore. So it's really interesting for me to see how my mind and my body and my energy reacts to not having a feeling of connection with other people, not having a way of, I don't know, being outside of myself, I guess. And the thing is, I get, like, everybody needs to feel like they're a part of something. Belonging is like one of the most important things that we can feel as a human race. And there's obviously you're my son who could not give a fuck if you belong to anything at all. But I guess it's that difference between wanting to belong and the level of desperation with which I need it. And I guess it's about, for me now, thinking about where is the edge of that healthy line and where does it become a distortion that's unhealthy for me. So I guess all in all, if I'm going to say that I'm grateful for something, I'm grateful that this is being brought to my attention, that this is being brought to the fore, that all of these really unhealthy thought processes, all these healthy maladaptive ways of thinking when I don't have the distraction or the necessity of being around anyone else, that I'm being shown that all of that is being cleared so that I can see some of those like deeper level things, you know? Because while all of this noise is up here, as beautiful as it is, and as true as it is, that I need to be around other people, we all do. But while all this noise is up here, I can't really hear some of the more core, like foundational things that I'm constantly thinking, that are constantly in the back of my head when all of this noise is going on at the front here. So I'm really grateful for that. What I do with it, I don't know, because it's a process, right? So I'm just going to figure that out as we go along. But yeah, I think that's all for them.